Okay, cool. I'm gonna get round to that. Okay, I'm gonna find a live stream. Okay. No email. Email is. I don't have the email. Oh, it's here. I've got it.
Always necessary.
And a good morning. You're tuned in and listening to Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1. Right about now, it's 9 o'clock. Yes, we've got some very awesome people who have agreed to join us. We've got Kingsley Amaku, who's the SSA to the Senate President on Legislative Strategy. Good morning, Kingsley.
Good morning.
He looks very dapper in the studio. Thank you very much for coming in this morning. And we've also got Fatima Kakuri, who is the SA to the Senate President on Gender and Social Development. Good morning, Fatima.
Good morning, Pulu.
Excellent. Morning, and we're lock sisters in the studio, so it just feels like family that we haven't seen in a while. Also joining us for this Lagos Talk special, we have Ikemesit Efionga, who is back in after Freshly Pressed.
It's becoming regular, right?
I know, we like this. You're Lagos. All right, but let's get down to business. This morning, we're taking a closer look at the Nigerian Senate and their role. And of course, we are going to be looking at this role in relation to things like the budget, security, lawmaking, things that concern us as a people. Now, Lagos, we're going to open start calling anytime from now 0144489981 to ask any of the questions or have address any of the matters concerning the Senate, and we may also be touching in general terms on what the National Assembly as well, just to have a better understanding of how our country works really, and our role as citizens within it. I'm going to hand over to our lovely guest in the studio. Ladies first, Fatima, I'm going to ask you to please introduce yourself to our listeners and, of course, your function within the Senate.
Okay. My name is Fatima Kakuri again, and I'm the Special Assistant to the Senate President on Social Development and Gender. What that means is that I advise him on issues relating to child development, issues relating to gender equality, gender parity, issues relating to general social development, like drug abuse, for instance, migration issues, and a host of others. I also work with the Senate committees, working on those Senate narcotics committee, the Women Affairs Committee, and then the Judiciary Committee and other committees.
So you're a very powerful woman.
That's a lot of committees.
I'm just an assistant.
Yeah, but a special one at that. Let's not forget. Kingsley, over to you.
Yeah, good morning, good people of Nigeria, Lagos. Nice to be in the Eco City. My name is Kingsley Amaku, as she introduced me. I'm the Senior Special Assistant to the Senate President on Legislative Matters and Strategy. At the unit, we advise on everything legislative and on what goes on the floor of the Senate, and essentially how to progress with bills, motions, and ensure that everything that concerns the Nigerian people is top on the list. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, going to jump in really with the first questions. Let's take a look at legislation and the role of the Senate when it comes to that. What is the function of the Senate to the Nigerian people? The average person, sometimes when we get stories that come in about the Senate, I just feel the been past what's really tends to be sort of like the delay of the budget, for example. That's been a huge topical issue. You knew we were going to talk about that, guys. Yeah. Come on, you know. But also on the other hand, we have seen that the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, for example, did commend the Senate over the passage of Kama Act. It was sort of revised. So can you please help enlighten us a little bit about this?
Well, thank you so much. My forte is essentially on this, which is how the National Assembly goes about its business, especially the Senate. And here, the National Assembly is a lawmaking body. It is not part of the executive. It is not supposed to be an appendage of the executive. So it makes laws, so supposed to hold the executive accountable for the expenditures and how it deals with public costs, essentially. That is in a very short sentence what the National Assembly is about.
All right, but I'm sure Kemisi will also have some questions. When we say, okay, making laws and holding the executive accountable for certain things, such as expenditures. But when we go back again, before we come back to expenditures, let's take a look at the Senate summoning. Summons. There's a lot of summons that come up in the papers, and trying to understand how that relates in how that works in relation to the Senate's role as a lawmaking body, as a legislative body. Certain expenditures. Most recently, the Inspector General of Police, we know again that was very topical. That came in the papers. Before that, we had the Comptroller General of Customs. That was an issue about appearing in uniform. Some of these matters, on occasion, do appear to people as though they are trivial. Why does the Senate seem to spend so much time on summoning those? We also have had different executives, CEOs that have complained and said, listen, we're constantly being called before the Senate to defend one thing or another. We can't get along or get on with our jobs. Why does the Senate summon people so much, or why is that what's coming out in the pages of the newspapers?
I think that's a very, very important question. And why this question is topical is because there is a whole lot of misunderstanding in the public space about the role of the National Assembly, especially.
Okay.
I have traveled a bit, and I've visited lots of legislative houses. In fact, the most developed and the most effective, you will always see ways. People don't report all of it. Like if you visit the Congress, it is all over, investigations going on everywhere you look. The National Assembly is nascent in our history and in our development. And we have always had the executive, we've always had the judiciary. It appears that that may be at fundamentally the problem with understanding what the National Assembly is supposed to do.
Okay.
And to say that there is so many summons, I differ. In fact, there is not enough investigation going on in the National Assembly. It should be daily questioning people about what they are doing and making sure that the concerns of their constituencies, the Nigerian people, are always top on the list of what's going on. For example, you talked about the IG. Since the break of 2018, January 2018, the level of killings we've witnessed across communities, defenseless people, we expect that the police we have should rise up to the occasion and provide civil security when you are expected to answer to those questions.
But what was particular about inviting in person? Seeing that he was in reports, it was said that he sent his deputy to, which constitutionally is really allowed, right? They're supposed to be the case in point. But what was so special about getting him personally on the House?
Excellent. I think I like that question. I think, Fatima. Like I told you when I started, I said I've visited many legislative houses.
Yeah.
I have never seen one where deputies and subordinates answer to the summons of the legislative house. I have never seen one, especially where the issues involved are issues about the security of the nation. For the IG to have left that summons to do something else is a dereliction of duty. And to send someone else, no matter how highly placed, is offensive and does not show the National Assembly enough respect. Because I haven't once seen where the IG has been summoned by the president, and he sent his deputy to answer. Even when he's not out in the country, he will find the next available flight back to Nigeria to answer to the president.
Interesting.
I think if I might add to what you're saying, there were summons were actually consequent upon 3 motions that were moved on the floor, and it was in public interest for the police to come and answer questions on the dimensions of insecurity in the country at the time. And there was a 2 days national summit that was organized by the Senate, a 2 days national security summit. And it was well attended by all the security chiefs. Now, one of the outcomes was to follow up with the police chief on how we further maybe curb the insecurity with the herdsmen clashes, with Boko Haram, restoration of civil authority. And when we called for the IG to come, I think one of the major things we wanted to discuss was collaboration. The intent of the Senate was actually to assess the national security assets to responding to the emerging crisis in the country. There have been herdsmen crises in Taraba, Kaduna, Zamfara, Adamawa. And look, people are dying. I know it just sounds like, 20 Nigerians died yesterday. Oh, it has become a regular pastime. It's not status quo for us.
It's not.
We want to investigate and understand, why are people dying? Is there a gap that we need to close? Is it resources? Is there some type of maybe intelligence-led policing that is going on? What is it? We want to understand. And this is why, does that sound like something that a DIG, for instance, should actually be talking to the whole of the institution of the Senate about?
Understood. Thank you very much. We do have to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to be addressing this some more. And of course, we're taking your calls, Lagos, so get ready to call us up. 0144899981. In the studio with us, we have the special advisor to the Senate President on Gender and Social Development, Fatima Kakuri, as well as Kingsley Amaku, who's the SSA to the Senate President on Legislative Strategy. We'll be back in just a bit.
Hello people, my name is Mazino Appeal and you're listening to Smooth 98.1.
Excellent. Oh, I have so many questions, guys. So many. Of course, but I'm trying to restrain myself so other people can call and send in messages.
Ask your questions. Yeah.
No, I will.
Yeah,
I'm time managing. That's all. Don't worry. I shall.
Powered by
Okay, so here's the question I'm going to ask off air, and I'll ask it on air as well. We tend to mention things such as subordinates, deputies. I mean, everyone is supposed to be well versed in what their job role is. Why is a deputy not, or the second in command of the police force, not good enough to answer questions when on the field and in practical terms he would be very involved what's going on, and in a lot of cases more so than whoever is at the head. That thinking or rationale to me just feels quite time wasting.
Let me explain it.
Okay.
And this hasn't happened once. It's happened often in the National Assembly. You send deputies, and when they come, they don't talk authoritatively, and they refer you back to their bosses.
Okay,
and
so
say,
is that a fair
Sounds like they're giving you a report.
Yes.
It just sounds like they're giving you a report.
Yeah, they will not say
it
it is not within my remit to talk about this. This I can only talk about this and this and this. So if
but
you
is that a systemic issue
yes,
opposed to the individual's fault?
It is the culture. It is the culture of the agencies that those who are subordinate attached to the Senate has been removed. Why? The seizure of the maize, and told exactly what happened, and then he was called by the IG to say, who gave you the authority to speak?
Perfect.
So
okay,
that's
30 seconds.
There has to be a sanitized version. You
We can
can
talk about the systemic issue.
That is an issue because it's a language that we use when we're talking in Nigeria quite a lot, and it doesn't encourage young people. For example, you're going into a place of employment, everyone's afraid to speak, which is why nothing gets done. You just have a lot of inefficiency. All right, well, we're back in, guys. Studio.
Unless traffic
Mike
is
Sarab.
moving in queues in all lanes and you have no choice but to keep moving forward where you are. Never move to a lane on your right to overtake.
Simple rules for driving safely around Lagos. Good morning. You're still listening to Smooth Breakfast right now. It's the Lagos Talk special on Senate matters. In the studio, we've got some fantastic people from the Senate who are helping to shed light on various issues. Just before the break, we were addressing the issue of summoning, how the Senate does summon quite a few people, focusing specifically on the Inspector General of Police being summoned before the Senate on 3 separate occasions. He failed to show. He did send his deputy, but Kingsley and Fatima, who are in the studio, were addressing reasons why perhaps why that was not acceptable to the Senate, talking about people. It is the head of the agency that really ought to show up to address certain matters before the Senate, and even in the various houses assembly around the country, you don't see subordinates sort of going forward, and that flagged a question in my mind. Lagos, please call up, ask your questions. 014489981. Why this mention of subordinates and deputies, as though people second in command in a certain agency cannot address certain issues? But doesn't that lead to blatant inefficiencies in our system, where somebody else should be handling certain roles or certain functions just to make things efficient and to expedite? I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, thank you so much. You see, when it comes to summoning, it is also we should remember that the Senate has very limited time in which it does its business. And so it doesn't want to be talking to people who will kick the bucket and say, no, I don't have the capacity to answer these questions.
Okay.
The Senate wants to talk to people who can take responsibility, who can make executive decisions, who will not be afraid of the shadow behind them and saying, I can't speak on this, I don't have the remedy to speak on this, I want to speak on certain other matters that may be mundane or not effective or reassuring enough. The Senate will help those who are the executive, those who take the decisions. It's not exactly that their decisions or positions are the position of the agencies they represent.
All right. Sounds, for me, it makes me a little bit concerned. It just sounds like that's a systemic issue. If everyone is trying to avoid blame and only the person at the top is the only person that can take responsibility, nothing will really be done.
I mean, I think that the precedence over time has been that we have concentrated power so much around the head of an agency, which has actually between, I think that, I mean, power, access to enough information. The reality in the country is that around the heads of agencies, political appoints and whatnot.
Thank you very much for that, Fatima. Helen Natogu up on our live chat on YouTube. I agree with you. She says the issue for the IG to send insults to the Nigerian people. I wasn't that insulted, but thank you for that. Henry sent a message on WhatsApp saying, why has, he says he's got a few questions. He's actually stated them quite clearly. 1, why has the Senate kept their budget secret? 2, what type of oversight do we have over the constituency allowances that they collect? And 3, some comments have put the Senate monthly salary at over 3 million naira a month. What makes the senators different from any guilt this much in a nation with such revenue challenges? Plus, they work a total of less than 6 months in the year. Big question.
Keep issues around the professional workings of the National Assembly, but I would like to also raise, because if I may ask you, do you know the salary of the DG of the National Communication Commission?
I'm aware.
Do you know the salary of the Minister of Communication?
No.
Do you know the salary of the working budget? There is monthly service allowance.
Okay.
Now the point is this: I think that we beat about on important issues, but for clarity, I would like to state a few things. That wherever I've gone to in looking around legislative houses, I've also found that aside salaries, legislators are paid certain sum of money to run their constituency offices. Now, it's not less than 3, 4 to 6, some 8 local governments. He is expected to have in the national assembly, and manned by professionals. Now, I think the people should focus attention in ensuring and asking the senators as bills offices. Because when you hear 13 million, 40 million, that is actually the money for running the constituency offices. So there is a common. And if you put that money in dollars, how much will it be? Let's say 13 million. How much will it be in dollars? You know, the least it receives for running the office is $3 million.
Well, Kingsley, here's an issue, and this is part of what Henry's lack of information that's coming out even from the National Assembly or from the Senate on this. So when these allegations come out, or these stories is being allocated to each senator come out, we don't seem to get conclusive, well, it's not just for me to sit and do nothing with, it's for running this. You're saying this now. Recall, unless Ikemese, please do correct me if I'm wrong, that being put in the same pages of the papers where this comes out. So you're saying that it's not really it shouldn't be a matter of concern for to be invested in the public.
Absolutely.
Then the public do need to know if it seems like huge sums in Nigeria.
And if you know the,
and I already agreed that.
So essentially a public is such.
Why not?
Yeah, because I'm saying
no, the thing about it is emulate. If you say, oh, because I stole money, okay for us to steal money, you shouldn't look at us, question him before you question us. Shouldn't the Nigerian Senate set an example for other levels of government?
I think I see your point, Valentine. You know, this is we need to kind of set the pace for everybody before we start asking questions. From
question that was being asked, the very raised that people started for the other side, which brings back my point: is why shouldn't
I ask I am
information if you'd like to disclose, we're not stop you.
So you. I'm saying that it is not a
various security agencies. I don't know if you are aware of the news that actually came out on Monday, and so I don't know if that is something that you can speak to, or the security vote, how it works, and whether Transparency International is appropriate, is bringing up the appropriate interpretation with respect to how they are utilized, or if so, what the thinking is within.
I haven't heard about security assembly. I have heard about security votes in the amongst governors and the. So it's a bit odd for me to be here.
Also step in.
Okay.
Because she also has a soft voice. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
That's good. That's good.
Go into your work.
I want to ask about gender and social development because
they've done a ton of work, and I've seen these guys at work, and I just feel like they don't tell the stories properly. So
that's what I'm open for. That's part of kind of what the intro was for as well, to kind of guide us in direction of the work that you've done. I am also going to ask about things like the Equal Opportunity Bill, because to me that's still like a heart-wrenching.
Like, can we just leave the
why?
Like, there's actually a lot of sensitivity around it because of like social issues, cultural. It's even more political than we think.
It's
so I don't know that we can. So but I can give you a brief background about it, and then I can tell you what we've done so far. If that's okay.
Okay, that works. And then please highlight on cam as well. Because that's been passed recently.
Okay. Cool. Is it just our especially the economy,
especially around the economy? That's one that
but apparently because uh, they're kind of pointing fingers at National Assembly say we're not providing enough
Oversight, which
That's
was going to be
really
my
what
question.
But it's not.
Okay,
It's
so just mention that comment coming back in.
the remit of the National Assembly.
But people don't want
But
to know
people,
that
but
right
people
now.
don't want to know that.
States.
Kingsley.
People don't want
People don't want to know that right now.
And more importantly, people don't understand that, because
Exactly.
what we tell a lot of people
Yeah,
is,
'cause you're saying
what I tell a lot of people
oversight.
is, and even a lot of guys that comment about this, they don't understand that that's extra constitutional. It's not necessarily provided under any legal framework. So it's very hard for the National Assembly to intervene from sort of
Exactly.
a
We're
legally
looking for how
empowered
to subdue
to
it
yeah
into
to
our framework.
we're not legally
so that
empowered
it's
to do
something that
this.
we provide.
So probably
So
the
can you
appropriate
do
line
that
of
comment coming back
response.
in before you
Yeah.
go into work?
So
Yeah?
probably the
Please.
appropriate line of response would be as the federal government's business.
10 seconds.
We're back in.
The states.
Yeah, as the states.
Indeed, it is just the two.
Studio. And in Lagos, if you are just tuning in, you've missed out already on quite an interesting conversation. We have got representatives from the Senate in us. We've got Kingsley, Amaku, and Fatima Kakuri, just giving us a little bit of insight to the world and, of course, the Nigerian Senate as well. Just before we took the break, among a very number of issues, but I'm going to hand over to our guest, Fatima. I know you had a couple of things you wanted to chip in just before the break, looking at the mentioned security vote sort of in general, which Mrs. Effiong brought up. Any comments on that quickly?
Actually, we were just talking about this in the office a couple of regarding the budget, because we saw the news piece from Transparency International, and it was quite damaging because from my perspective, it sounded like maybe we weren't providing oversight. It hasn't been within the remit of the Senate or the National Assembly to respond to actually oversight that, as far as we were concerned before now. But it had been pointed out that these are public funds, and it's something that it seems shady, kind of like, this is loot that maybe public officials have access to, and has actually been the source of them just diverting funds all this time. We feel that it is time for us to subsume this into one of our functions, our committees, so that there's proper oversight for public funds. And so, the Senate President was actually discussing this. I feel like you might hear something about it very soon.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much for that. We've got quite a flood of messages coming in on WhatsApp, so let's see if we can take a few of those. This is in from Akinjola, who says, I think we've dealt with the Dina Malaya issue, so let's move on from that. To say the salaries of the other government parastatals is not relevant. The real truth is that they only work on a little time and earn a massive premium, whether it's constituency or personal income. Their money should be regulated in relationship to minimum wage, says Akinjo. Very interesting. More still coming in. This one is in next from Tunde, who says, let's ask our guests, why are we speaking from both sides of the mouth? He says, how can you classify the IGP issue as important and the lawmaker's salary issue as unimportant and focusing on the wrong thing? All right, I think we've sort of addressed that a little bit. And Henry says, Mr. Kingsley, an elected official's salary must be made public. The other people you mentioned are not voted, they were appointed, and it is the responsibility of their bosses to hold them accountable. Very interesting. You can also call up on 0144899981 to share your thoughts with us. This is in from, well, let's go to the phone line, see who we have out there.
Hello, good morning. Good
Good
morning. Thanks for
morning.
joining us. What's your name? Where are you calling from? All right.
Good morning, Ekene. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yes, we do.
There were three different reasons. There were on three separate occasions.
All
Okay.
right, go ahead.
All right, so for time, got a question. Now is the time to just round it up and state very quickly. We've literally got 4 minutes left. Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much for that,
Ekene.
Akena. We completely understand. Any response to that very quickly?
Ekene, I think that Senator Dino's case was one of the cases that came up the same time when we were considering some of the outcomes that was thrown up from the Senate Roundtable on National Security. We have a lot of issues which we in the Senate are focused on, especially farmers had major issues in the country right now. That the Boko Haram issue in the northeast, in Borno and Yobe, there hasn't been restoration of civil authority. As far as I know, the Boko Haram has actually been shrunken into size, and the military is still on ground, and we haven't seen police presence in most of these states. And for us, we are actually confused. We want to ask the head of that organization why there hasn't been a response. Does Senator Dino's case concern us? Yeah, that is a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If he was maltreated in that manner, then the Senate is going to want to know why. Let's not forget that this is an institution of 109 senators. If they feel that this is a threat to our democracy, then they're going to try and ask the IG, why is a senator, a public official, being disgraced in this manner? That precedent is bad. Whether we like to actually look at these people and this is the face of somebody who is looting my money because that is your understanding. It's unfortunate, but we need to protect our democracy. This is at the front burner of everything that we are discussing today.
Thank you very much. Let's see if we can take another phone. Good morning, Henry Manuel. Is that you? Fantastic. Let us know your thoughts.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Henry. I think you asked very important questions. One, the report, the annual report of the National Assembly,
And the budgeting process.
Process. On the annual report, I think you go to the National several reports every activities, and they are replete in the National Assembly.
Oh, well, is there a portal that we can access it?
No, unfortunately, the National Assembly has not been able to develop its capacity in terms of digitalizing its reports and producing this for maybe website viewing and all of that. It's unfortunate that we still have those in hard copies, and I think that they are always available if people will ask for them. And the easiest way to do that is to either use the Senate President's Office, write to us, or write to the committees that you want to really look at, or email them, or call on the phone. We respond very quickly on this kind of issues. On the issue of the budget, I think you said that the budget, you want to understand the budgeting process and why this delay. It's unfortunate that this delay has occurred, but I think the Constitution itself envisages that sometimes there could be this delay. That's why it provides that the executive can continue to spend on the budget for 6 months within the financial period, and so we have not even entered the second month within the financial period. Nigerian people should know that this financial budget ended at the end of April, not January.
That's for 2017.
Needs to be made
And if
clear.
I might add to doing in the past maybe 6 months is that we have organized a lot of interventions with a lot of ministries, MDAs, to try and stakeholders to try as well as roundtable on drug abuse. We've had a roundtable on migration and human trafficking. We've had a roundtable. We're having a roundtable now. We've had a roundtable on national security summit, and we're having another.
Education.
What this is supposed to do is it's supposed to allow us now look at areas of focus for the national. Done a lot of work with trying to make sure that we allocate resources not just to capital budgeting, but to areas where we feel like, we should actually be improving society.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're well over time for this segment. We want to take this opportunity to please invite you back. Please come in another Wednesday so we can continue these conversations. Kingsley is just shaking and just concern in the corner, but you will be back. Kingsley Amaku, Fatima Kakuri, thank you for your time. We appreciate you coming to engage us on matters relating to the Senate, and we definitely look forward to more conversations like this so that it can bridge the knowledge gap between the public and, of course, what's happening in the National Assembly. Coming up right now, though, it's time for Alat 101. Keep listening. Let's talk about money.